Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa Alaykum Warahmatullahi Wabarakatuh. Like, oh, we hang for a second.
Nah. What's up, guys? Today we're making a little bit of a different video. Like I said, we want to do different videos on this channel as well, like reaction videos and just other videos that we can do besides the podcast. But today we're gonna be reacting to Ali DAWAH answered the toughest atheism questions only in 1 minute. I watched the video before. I think I watched a part of it a little bit just to see how it was, and then EJ watched a little bit. But right now I think we're just gonna react and give our thoughts. I think I had some pretty good thoughts to say when we were watching. So inshallah, we're gonna watch and we'll see. So without any further ado,
Let's get started.
Just got with everything.
So, who created God? You believe in God. So scientists couldn't figure it out, but you could. Is that right?
If there is infinite time,
Yeah.
why not infinite possibilities?
The moment he creates that, it becomes not powerful because he can't lift it. There's no such thing that exists. There was a study done in Oxford University by Justin Barrett. He found that young kids who are not taught about Islam or Christianity or any other religion, they all had the inclination to believe in one God.
you say you love these videos, huh?
I love this channel.
Ali DAWAH, you have 1 minute for each question.
You ready?
Are you ready?
Can you prove God's existence in 1 minute?
Let's look at Google. In order for Google to exist, we need the internet. In order for the internet to exist, we need a computer or our telephones or our tablets. In order for the computer to exist, there has to be human beings that create it, and etc. It relies on electricity. The question follows as the following. Google relies on the internet relies on the computer relies on us and electricity, and this goes on. We cannot have an infinite regress of dependent things. We require a place where it all stops and makes sense, which is the independent, self-sufficient, necessary being, which is God.
Why can't the necessary being be the universe?
Well, that's good that you say that, because
That was only 30 seconds, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know what? So I actually the reason I was smiling is because I've actually I've read about this before and it makes a lot of sense. Everything is depending on each other, right? Everything. So the way that things have worked to where we are now, even with the theory of evolution, it's all chronological. But one thing always had to happen before the other. So of course, you can always make an explanation to why this happened or how it happened, but it has to lead to a primary source. And the primary source is, nothing. It doesn't make any sense. So for you to believe that there's an independent variable that it comes from, such as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anhu, or whatever you believe, that makes the most sense. Now, whatever you want your independent variable to be, whatever, right? But for us, of course, is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anhu, because there's oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anhu. That's the biggest thing, right? Tawheed, oneness of Allah and no partners associated. And that right there explains that there's only one variable that we all depend on. Because there can't be multiple. You can't have multiple variables. And you need a variable that's outside the realm of time and space, which is a man-made concept. It's just so for us to wrap our brains around and understand the world around us. But the independent variable, I think, is, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anhu, but there can only be one. And scientifically and, philosophically, whatever you want to say, religiously, it makes the most sense, right?
first it shows that you acknowledge with me that we require a necessary being. That's good. All you've done is applied this to the universe. And we say that contradicts the necessary being, because the necessary being is independent, self-sufficient, and is necessary. The universe is not self-sufficient and dependent. It's opposite. So you can't have this be that, because it contradicts.
Can God create a rock that he can't lift?
I mean, this is an invalid question. When people are
Who asked this type of question, bro?
You know what? Like, these questions, right? They ask. So you know how we believe in, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the malaika, like the angels, things that require a lot of faith, right? Christians also believe in such things that require faith, as in God can be a man, right? So if God is all powerful, why can't he just be a man? Why can't he walk on 2 feet? Now, right? That's just what they believe. And it makes sense, right? It's faith, having faith. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or their God can do whatever, he has the power to do whatever. But like he said, like this and that, it's an invalid question. There's no premise to that question. Why would he want to do that? Right? Just because he can do it, or just because it's in his realm of possibility. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can do whatever he wants, but that's an invalid question. That, again, comes back to our understanding of things, right? Our understanding of, weight and creation, all these things, right? For us, that's something that is what we created, like man, it's a man-made concept for us to understand and measure things. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have that. He's outside of the realm of time and space. So there's no such thing as weight or non-weight. It doesn't exist. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing is heavy and nothing is light. That is a realm far beyond what we can comprehend. That's why we have these man-made ideas of weight and, time and height and all these different things, these measurements that we use. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not limited to those characteristics. What do you think?
No, it was good. You should be asking this question.
He's the one who's asking. You only got 1 minute to answer all this. You go on over. Bro, I be talking about the same thing like over and over again, like 300 different ways.
Tell you, you should have been here.
I know, Loki.
Ask this question, it's like a valid question. I can ask the question, can God cease to exist? Of course not. It's contradictory. It's like me saying, how many days in a week? Yes or no? Yes or no? It's not a yes or no question. I have to ask how many days a week? 7. So the point is, the question is invalid. So to say, can God create a rock so big that he can't lift? Then the moment he creates that, it becomes not powerful because he can't lift it. There's no such thing that exists. It's just a question that is asked for the sake of it.
Can't there be more than one creator?
No, because then we go back to the argument of necessary being. If there was more than one creator, then the question is, how could you have one necessary being which is self-sufficient, independent? If there is another creator, then it's dependent. It's not necessary anymore. So the question is, if there was 2 creators, firstly Allah says in the Quran, they would fight each other for power. Yeah? So that shows 2 powers fighting each other are dependent because they require more power to kill the other one. So that's why we believe there has to be one necessary being that is self-sufficient, independent, and necessary.
Yeah, this is a great point. Because you want to house, like, if there's 2 gods, right? What if there's one God wants the river to go up this way, but this guy wants to have them go this way? This fight,
Yeah, and honestly, I was also thinking there's no order, right? There's chaos. Because if there's not one being that's supreme and you have like multiple, then what happens is like you said, if one God wants to go the river go this way to flow this way, and the other God wants it to flow this way, which way is it gonna flow? One has to be stronger than the other because rivers only flow one way. Right? There's a reason that we have laws in science, like the laws of physics. Like all those things are done in a very chronological and orderly manner. And that cannot be created with just two different beings, because it would just be you can't. It's not possible. Yeah. So if there is a creator, of course we believe there is, but if there is a creator, talking from an atheist point of view, then there have to be only one, and that one has to be sufficient.
God created everything. So who created God?
Well, the question is invalid. Once again, it's an invalid question. Just because somebody asks this question doesn't mean it's a valid question.
Real quick. It goes back to what I just said, right? It's a man-made concept. Creation, weight, like how it said, it's the same thing. It's a man-made concept. For us, we have that because we have life and death. But outside that realm, there's no such thing. So with that being said, this question, like you said, is invalid, right? Because if you are taking the premise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and now you're questioning him, these questions will not apply. It just doesn't make sense, right? So of course, we have to think outside the box when we think about these things, because the universe is vast and there's things that we don't understand. We really don't understand much of it, but we understand the life around us. But that makes us arrogant. So just because we understand what is around us does not mean we understand what is out there and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created more and beyond than what we even know.
Because what we say is we see cause and effect within our universe. It requires a designer. To come and say who created that designer is you haven't understood who the designer is. It goes back to the issue of the necessary being. What's the attribute? It's independent. It is self-sufficient. It is necessary. If you acknowledge these attributes, these 3 things, you need to acknowledge that the question of who created God, can God make a rock so big he can't lift, can God cease to exist, are questions that are not valid. It doesn't exist. The question you're asking, there's no such thing. Because if there was a God that created him, then he becomes dependent now. He's not self-sufficient anymore. So what we say is that this creator, as long as this necessary being is independent, is self-sufficient, is necessary, everything stops there.
Why Islam when there is many other religions?
Well, that's the question I asked myself before I came to Islam. Why Islam? And when I did my research and
Why Islam?
Why Islam?
I'm asking you to revert too.
Because if you look what Islam means, the actual meaning of Islam, I mean, submit your will to God. Submission. Listen.
So what is the difference between Islam and other religions for you?
Well, you have, for example, Christianity. That the Christianity comes from Christ. Like Catholic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Catholicism, Judaism comes from Judah. Islam is none of that. It's not from Muhammadan, right?
Yeah.
So
you think it's just
That's-
Allah SWT who just
you want God.
yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
I was born with a fitra. There was a study done in Oxford University by Justin Barrett. He found that young kids who are not taught about Islam or Christianity or any other religion, they all had the inclination to believe in one God, not two, not three. So to me, I had that in myself, to believe in one God. But the question was, why Islam? I asked the same question to myself. And when I looked into it, I realized true monotheism in its true sense. Because if you go to the Christians, they say we're monotheists. And they believe three in one. You go to the Hindus, they say we believe 1 million gods is one. The point is this, pure monotheism in its worship and understanding of who God is only in Islam. Not only that, also when it comes to the Quran, it is the only scripture on this planet that is being preserved and has miracles that we can see. For example, if I go to a Christian and I say, look, I want to believe in Christianity, show me. You say Jesus gave life to the dead and this, that, with the permission of God. Show me. Or if you go to the Jews and say Moses did that, show me. Can they show you? No, they can't. If they come and say to us, what's the miracle in the Quran? We'll say, here's the Quran, and we can show you, touch it. You can feel it, you can analyze it. Why? Because also we learn from this, the Quran is for all mankind. And you can see it, you can hear it, you can examine it. But the miracles that the other prophets done, you can never prove that. That's why that was for that time specifically. And the Quran is for all times because we have a method, an oral tradition, which is the Quran, which we and many generations after us can examine. And that's what I did before I came to Islam. I examined it, I read it, I looked at the prophecies, I looked at the miracles. I said, this can be no other than by from Allah.
You told us that there are miracles of the Quran.
Yeah.
Can you please just tell us one miracle of the Quran?
I'm going to be generous here.
What's your favorite miracle of the Quran?
My favorite miracle of the Quran, what he just said. The fact that the Quran is preserved. He said that you can see, you can touch it. That is the biggest miracle of the Quran. The biggest miracle.
That's true.
What about you?
Same.
Really?
Same.
Yeah, bro. We're just talking about the next podcast.
Which one?
The one we just gonna really see. You guys are gonna see it. Talking about the ijaza and how the nasl, like the lineage of where it came down from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Jibreel salam to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to all of the Sahaba, Tabi'in, Tabi'in, and all up to the people who today get their certification for completing memorizing the Quran. That is the most that is actually insane. 1,400 years later, you have the same book memorized and complete in its natural form. And 1.8 billion, actually 2 billion Muslims are now following that, and that book has been preserved to that extent. Imagine how many room there is for error when the book gets wrong that much. I mean, every Muslim knows about the Quran. Every single Muslim. Let's just say half of them know. Whatever, 1 billion people, there's 1 billion people who read the same book, and that book has not been changed at all. That's crazy. That's crazy to me.
You got people from like China, Philippines reading the same thing.
Learning Arabic.
It's crazy. I'm learning.
Yeah.
Look at this guy.
Rabbi.
I don't think that's
Oh, you gotta see it.
Rabbi. Rabbi Sydney Ilmi. Ilmi.
Rabbi Zidni ilma. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase all of us know. Inshallah.
I'm going to give you 3. Yeah, you have to be generous sometimes in life, The first one is, I think, very profound and very important, because what we are told, for example, that in Surah Balad, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about Abu Lahab. And this is very interesting, because Abu Lahab could make one statement and the whole of Islam will fall on the ground. Allah says in the Quran about Abu Lahab and his wife that they are going to enter the fire, hellfire. They're going to die as disbelievers and enter the hellfire. Now, if you think about it, Abu Lahab, he had to do one thing and disbelieve Islam. Because the Quran declares you're going to go hellfire, you and your wife, and you're going to die as a disbeliever. So the thing is this, they could have called, Abu Lahab could have said, hold on a second, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. There you go. Your religion is false. Because your religion says I'm going hellfire. Your religion says I'm going to die as a disbeliever. I accept Islam. He didn't do it. He died as a disbeliever.
You get that?
To me, that is profound. Because he had to do one statement to disprove the whole. They wanted to stop Prophet Muhammad, yeah? With everything. He just had to do 10 seconds of the Shahada and crumble the whole religion. He didn't. Number two, there is an evidence, for example, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in the Quran about the time of Moses and the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, yeah? And Allah talks at the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, He calls the ruler a king. At the time of Moses, He calls him a pharaoh. But in the Bible, they call the time of Yusuf alayhi salam, and they call him a pharaoh. And at the time of Moses, they call him a pharaoh. This is historical error. Because when they deciphered the Rosetta Stone, it's a thing, to understand the Egyptian hieroglyphics, they found out that there was no pharaohs at the time of Joseph. This dynasty didn't exist. There was kings. How did the Quran know this? And they say the Quran copies the Bible. The Quran copies from the Bible. Why didn't the Quran copy the mistake? And how did it know that at the time of Joseph, the ruler is a king? There's no pharaohs. How did they know that? That's number two. Number three, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Rum, Rum, the Romans have been defeated. The historians say the way the Romans got defeated by the Persians, it's impossible to think, let alone them coming back to win, for them to even exist. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, the Romans have been defeated, but they are going to win. That's a big statement. That's like saying you guys together, we're going to take over USA and we're going to beat Trump. It's crazy. It's a big gamble. And after 3 to 7 years or 3 to 9 years, the Romans come and defeat the Persians. These are historical problems. And these are just some. There are hundreds. Hundreds. I'm giving you just 3. And I can go on.
You believe in gods?
One thing. You know what's so crazy?
What?
You know the song about Abu Lahab and his wife? Some burning up. Like, all they had to do is just the shit of putting up.
Yeah?
You know what is right after that surah?
What?
Surah Ikhlas.
So Ikhlas.
Yeah, Surah Ikhlas.
That's crazy.
Look it up.
Yeah, so Ikhlas is
One God.
it's about one guy, it's about Day of Judgment too, I believe.
No, I don't think. He's just proving them like that Allah is only one.
Oh yeah?
But think about that. All he has to do is just say the Shahada, like that you believe that there's only one God and accept that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
All he has to do is just say the Shahada, and then he literally, like he said, disproves the whole religion. Literally, like, all he has to do is, it's because the Quran said it, and he could just say the Quran is false by just taking Shahada, but he couldn't.
But then the next surah that was after that, it was Surah Ikhlas. We'll put
We'll put a little bit of on there.
Sure.
That's crazy. That's crazy though. So I don't know.
So scientists couldn't figure it out, but you could. Is that right?
It's not about I could. We use our logic. We need to use our brain. The science deals with the 5 senses, what you can see, empiricism. So what we say is very simple. There are scientists who believe in things. If you're talking about, for example, I don't see God, that's why, I don't believe in it. It's not something, science doesn't talk about the supernatural. It stops the physical. But we know, for example, scientists have discovered recently dark matter. Dark matter is something they cannot see, they cannot touch, they cannot feel, they cannot smell, they cannot hear. So the same thing with God. Can you see God? No. Can you touch God? No. Can you smell God? No. Can you hear God? No. Can you see God? No. But you reject He exists. But the same thing with dark matter, same thing. But you say no, dark matter exists. What kind of...
I was watching a video against, Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye does, So I was watching a video. It was Bill Nye, and there was this a Christian pastor is arguing him the belief of God, that God exists and stuff like that. And while he was doing that, it was like Bill Nye was completely disregarding it Bill Nye was completely disregarding him and giving him no credit. And when the pastor was getting hot, he was asking some questions that actually was oh, okay. At first it seemed Bill Nye was just schooling him. But then when he asked a couple questions about it was Kevin going back to the thing okay, where did that come from? Where did this come from? And then just going back across that that chain of dependency, he came to the conclusion about emotions and stuff like that came because we could be a distant relative of Martians from Mars.
Who said that?
Bill Nye, right? that's what we feel and have emotions. I'm like thinking like, bro, like dog, you're gonna believe that Martians exist and that we're relative to Martians before you believe that there's a God? Like, how ignorant are you? You know what I mean? So you'll believe in literally something you have no evidence for, but just because religion makes sense in this scenario, and science is so against religion because they want to disprove it because like it's illogical and it's like emotional. You're gonna say, oh yeah, we're relative to Martians. It's like that to me just seems like the most ignorant thing ever. Like, I feel like there's so many situations where like we don't know an answer to something and we just settle for something that makes sense to us because we don't want to settle for the fact that it could be, it could be God, right? Hamza was something the other day. There's so many scientists that he knows personally, not personally, but he read about that when they looked into it, they either believed in God after or they became Muslim, even a step further after, just because of what they learned while being in the science field. Subhanallah, subhanallah.
What kind of contradiction is this? First, God doesn't exist because I can't sense, touch, feel. But dark matter, contradiction. Why do you have double standards? This is the issue. As a scientist, it's not something I discovered new. I use my logical reasoning and rationality to come to simple conclusions. And I don't need to be a scientist. I don't care how much big of a scientist you are. There were people who believed in God that were scientists. Like Einstein. He did believe in a higher power. So this issue of science or scientists and God is not contradictory. You can have scientists who are Muslim or scientists who are Christian. So yeah, it's not a discovery.
Are you brave enough to talk with famous atheists? What would you do if you encounter them?
I have no problem. Because to be honest, I don't care what atheist you are, how scientist, professor, I don't care. The same thing applies. I bring my same arguments and you have to answer them. I don't care because what I'm on, I know I'm 100% so sure, logically, rationally, that there is no way you can get out of it except that you accept and be a deist, minimum deist. Maybe theist we can work on, theism. So I don't care if you're a professor, so I don't care, it's irrelevant. As long as you have aql, I hope so, we can reason, then 100% there is no way they can go.
If there is
That's crazy, right? You don't have to be a scientist, dude. You can literally just like, it's like me saying that this is a water bottle. When you have faith, that's very, very strong. SubhanAllah, I can just tell that one has a very, very strong faith. But it's like you have faith strong enough where you can see this water bottle and believe it's a water bottle, right? Now, if you come here and you tell me, yo, that's not a water bottle, it's something else, it's an apple. I'm going to tell you, like, oh, you're a scientist, you're going to say it's an apple, I'm going to believe you. No, I'm going to be like, no, I know what this is. This is a water bottle. I don't need to have a degree or be in school for like 15 years just to be like, it's common for us. That's how your faith is supposed to be. As Muslims, that's how our faith is. So it's like, if I believe this is a water bottle, I'm going to argue that regardless. Like, I'm not going to get like, rattled because you have some sort of degree that I don't, or you have something in the field. Of course, like you said, aql, having some sort of, sense. And talking in that manner where you're talking intellectually and not to just be right or wrong. But if you have that faith, then you can argue with anyone. It doesn't matter. But you just have to have a very, very strong faith. That's what I think.
infinite time.
Yeah.
Why not infinite possibilities?
It's a good question. I have to drink my water to answer this. This glass is empty. Yes? Empty. If we said infinite time, because the argument here is you give it infinite amount of time, anything can happen. This is a fallacy. Because to make the properties, argument's sake, if I like a chocolate cheesecake, let's talk Turkish, yeah? A nice sütlaç, yeah? If I want to have a sütlaç in here, and I say, let's give it infinite time, would I ever get a sütlaç? And by the way, I like my sütlaç burnt on the top. Let's be specific. Would we ever get it? No. Because the equation of time is irrelevant. If the components to make a sütlaç, the way I like it, is not in there, you will never get a sütlaç. It's as simple as that. Time is irrelevant. What's time got to do with it? Let's give it infinite amount of time. Would you get Ferrari? No. Give it infinite time. Would you get a universe? No. Because the properties to make a universe or a Ferrari or my sütlaç, which is more important, is not in there. So if it's not in there, you will never get it. But hopefully after this, I will get a sütlaç. Okay.
You always said.
Our questions are...
You want to give me some lunch?
Huh?
You want to give me some lunch?
I got you. I got to figure out what that is first.
Do you use it?
Huh?
Like a trick?
It's like a cheesecake, or I don't know. It's like a dessert. But what he was saying is, you get what he's trying to say. He was trying to say that like the people that say that in time, you know, with billions of years, you know, the universe is made. Regardless of that fact, if you don't have the properties to make it, it's not gonna just become something else. And the apple's not gonna become an orange over time. It doesn't happen. But you have to have the properties there. So if someone actually curates it in that way, then of course is going to be made, whether in a small amount of time or a large amount of time. That does not matter. It's irrelevant. But what matters is the fact that it's going to happen only through the properties that only through properties that are like purposely made to be there to create that universe, i.e. this world, and et cetera, et cetera.
Complete.
That's why I want to ask you a question. And why do you not accept Islam after I've answered all of them?
I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Like, you think they become Muslim after that?
I mean, repeat after me. Ashhadu an la
Oh, I guess that's your question.
It was a pleasure, guys. As you can see here, we have biscuits, Turkish tea. You know, I think I have to come often. Yeah. Please, let's make it regular. Till next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wassalam. How you feel about that video?
It was good. That was really good.
Yeah, man, I love videos like these, and these guys are good.
Yeah.
Towards eternity.
Inshallah, I love these guys, man. Towards eternity, I usually watch. They have some like reverts that gets to the show. Check them out.
You trying to get on the show?
I mean,
Hit us up.
Never know.
feastoffaith@gmail.com.
Never know.
But you get me on there too. I'm not a revert. Alright, but if you guys like the video, inshallah, send us more videos. We can react to them and stuff like that. But there's other stuff too. DAWAH debunk Christianity. Just 1 minute. We'll watch that. Probably.
Inshallah.
Next time we'll watch that too. So yeah. Besides that, if you guys enjoyed, inshallah, please subscribe, like, and share, and follow our socials. But the podcast should be out soon, and it's Umar journey. All that. If you look behind him, we got a little something for him. Nah, my bad, bro. Umar Mubarak EJ. We got a little something for him. But yeah, subhanAllah, man. We back. So hit that subscribe button, and inshallah we will see you next week.
Inshallah. Sorry I didn't get a chance to talk, man. You guys know my voice is a little bit different. And it's actually we're shooting late at night.
Yeah.
It's like
I
almost
just wanted to
2
real
p.m.
quick, you know what I mean? He just reading his Quran and stuff like that. But yeah, inshallah we will see you next week. Asalamu alaykum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.